you may or may not know this. My father-in-law was a physician and practiced at St. Vincent's Baptist and the old Riverside Hospital. Did some work out at university before it was university.
Right.
And what's kind of cool is when you go in for surgery, there's a receiving area and there's a picture on the wall in that room with the nuns when they had those, flying nun hats with my father-in-law, which is kind of cool.
Well, that's nice. I didn't realize my picture was not on here.
Well, there you are.
There I am. Well, we live right down the street from Mayo, just a couple miles down St. Pablo. So we were fortunate in to get me in there. My daughter and son-in-law both work there.
Well, then you ought to have all the inside scoop.
Well, I don't know, some kind of scoop anyway. When I came up with this, I had a situation at Baptist where I went in and the doctor I normally see was out, and then he was out on vacation, then he was out on leave. And a couple times other people handled it. I mentioned it to my daughter, and she works in what is called the physician's referral office, where they work on matching up doctors in Mayo with doctors outside of Mayo that want to meet each other and get together for whatever reason. And then they hold some seminars and other events. She was working with one of the heart doctors. She worked in the cardiology area. And she mentioned it to one of the heart doctors that I was having some difficulty getting some consistency. And he said, well, if he needs a second opinion, let me know. And she mentioned it to me. I said, well, I wouldn't mind, talking to him. She sent him an email and he said, we'll get him in with another doctor that had just joined them a couple months before. It had worked up in Rochester for a number of years. And he said, this sounds more like a case for him than for me. He says, talk to him, and if you're not happy, I'll talk to you, father. And we got in there, just swept right through the system.
Wow.
Got it done right away. So
that's cool.
So I can't complain about that. I feel pretty good. I've got some back issues, and I'm just reluctant to go under an anesthesia for a couple hours while they do that.
Well, Jerry, not to pick on you, you've carried weight for a long time. I know you probably lost a lot. When you're carrying that extra weight, that works on your back.
Yeah, you're right. I need to learn to drink coffee a little better. But yeah, I've lost a few pounds. I'm not losing as much as I would like, but I feel like the more I can lose, excuse me, the better off I am.
Well, I've lost 65 pounds since last November.
My goodness, that's impressive.
So
that is impressive. How do you do it?
The diet I've been on.
The what?
I'm not supposed to drink anymore, but when I came out of the hospital, alcohol was not forbidden, but it was, you were to limit it.
Right.
So that coupled with a heart healthy diet, I came out of the hospital, Jerry, at 300 and some pounds, and I'm now about 240 something.
That's remarkable. Hey, Larry.
Hey, gentlemen, how you doing? Okay.
Doing well, and you?
Sorry, I got an airplane flying above my head. Right. So, how's everybody doing? Okay. It's a
Good
beautiful
well.
day outside.
Good.
So, yep. Oh.
Are you
Hey,
ready? for
John,
big
welcome
Thanksgiving,
back.
Larry?
What's that?
Are you
I
ready for
was
big
saying hi
Thanksgiving?
to John Barley.
Yeah,
It's good to
yeah,
see
we'll
you.
probably.
Hey, how
I'm
are
doing.
you?
Okay.
We're
You feeling
doing
all
something
right?
at our church on
I
Saturday.
see you had some
So,
big news in the paper this morning or yesterday.
Oh boy, did we have big news. Yeah, it's really exciting.
Well,
Share that
Exciting
with
for
me.
the Sorensens.
What is it?
Our founders sold the Firehouse Subs franchise for $1 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty good for a couple local boys.
Hey, that is amazing. That's fantastic.
And the best part is they claim that they're going to keep our headquarters local. And the owners are going to, well, I know that they're going to stay on with the foundation. So, you know, praying that everybody gets to stay and keeps, they're talking about growing internationally. So could be a lot of opportunity.
That's really, and that's great for them. Great for the city.
Yeah, it's good for the city. I'm gonna mute myself because I have a cold and I keep coughing.
Well, we don't want you to give it to us, so go ahead and mute yourself very fast.
I definitely don't want to give.
So you don't sneeze on us.
Talk about a mask.
Right.
Well, John, it's good to see your face. You feeling better?
I'm doing better. I've
Good.
got a road to hoe yet, but I'm doing fine.
What were your marching orders?
Well, I'm probably moving towards heart surgery.
Sorry to hear that.
Well, I mean, you know, we've known that that might be something we needed to do for a long time. So, you know, we're just thankful that, you know, I've got some good doctors and, you know, we're moving slowly but surely in that direction.
And thankful that we have the ability to do that.
That's right.
Right. All right. Well, I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, well, be safe.
Oh, wow.
I think they're getting ready to zoom out here in a second. So.
So are we getting close?
Yeah, I'm just looking for
Well, John, I know we've all prayed for you. So,
Well, I appreciate that. A lot of folks have.
yeah. So, yeah.
You know, that's one of the nice things about fraternal organizations like Rotary.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everybody does care about everybody.
No, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who's your doctor, if I could ask?
I have several.
Okay.
Dr. Patterson and Dr. Leon are a couple of the heart docs the heart surgeon is I got a mind block right now, but it's the heart group at St. Vincent's.
Okay.
So, and of course, right now, I've got several other doctors. I have my, my main doctor, and then I have another doctor that's dealing with something else. And then I got another doctor for the, the GI side of things. And so the list goes on.
Wow.
I have that group of St. Vincent's also, John. They're good.
So Alton, you doing well?
Yeah, pretty good. Those guys are taking pretty good care of me so far.
Mr. Alton, I saw a man in a parade the other day. He looked just like you.
It might have been him.
I really enjoyed that.
Yep.
It was just so heartwarming to see the great turnout of people for that parade.
Yeah. Well, my impression of Jacksonville is they do appreciate the military, so that, the things that people do here. So not just based on, having bases here, but in general, people have a good impression of the military. So
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
It's always been that way.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, the soldiers would come in from Camp Blanding.
Mhm.
They were really very well treated. And then, of course, the sailors from NAS Jax. And there was a place called Yellowwater Gunnery School, where they would bring. So,
Wow. Yeah. Well, we've had a lot of military people retire here at the end of their service. So that's something about Jacksonville. So, yeah.
yes, it does. And it really enriched the city.
Uh-huh. Mm.
An interesting military story goes back about 25 or probably about 30 years ago, when a Russian ship docked at Mayport for the first time ever having a Soviet ship in the United States docking at a port. The crew went on a cruise. They had buses that took the crew around. They went to Regency Square. The sailors from Russia got off the bus. They thought it was all rigged because they couldn't believe there was so much merchandise and so many stores.
Uh,
And the tour guide said, you can go wherever you want. Just tell us where to go and we'll drive you there. So they drove down a number of streets, I think ended up near the Avenues Mall, which was brand new back then, I believe. I believe that was it.
mhm.
And they were overwhelmed with how much merchandise we had and what a outstanding lifestyle we had with all the automobiles and
Mhm.
all the people and the way they were dressed and the way they and the merchandise that we had available. Rotary was involved in part of that, at least in doing the tour. Not our club, but I think the Arlington Club, one of the other clubs,
Mhm.
took part in it.
Mhm. Wow. Mhm.
That's interesting. I sure hope someone will write about that so that it will be a lasting part of our history.
Yeah.
I hope somebody has. I'm not sure, but I remember a neighbor of mine, Alicia Dorsey Frank, one of the tour people, one of the people involved in that. She's a member, or was a member, I think still is a member of the Arlington Club. But we sometimes take things for granted. And it's just interesting to hear other people's opinion of what goes on here in America.
Well, sir, I've been around the world and back again, and I'll tell you, America is the greatest country in the world. It really is. You know, and we just, yeah, you're right. I think people don't appreciate it enough. You know, but it really is. You know, after being in other countries, you know, where people don't have, and you really realize, you know, what you have, you know, really. So, yeah.
Well, we turn on the tap and have a drink of water and don't think twice about it, where in many places they can't get clean water on any basis.
That's right.
No, that's right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
There used to be a saying you would hear every now and then that America was the only country in the world that people risk their lives to get into rather than escape from.
Right.
I still think that's true.
Yeah.
Should say thank you all for your service.
Oh, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome to the November 17th meeting of the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville. Zoom attendees, please mute yourself and use the chat function to communicate with us. Our invocation will be given by Rahul Sharma, and Assistant District Governor Ed Lombard will lead us in the pledge.
Thank you, President Ike. Fellow Rotarians, brothers and sisters, if you could please join me in bowing your heads at this time. Dear Heavenly Father, you are so good to us. We give you thanks for your ongoing faithfulness, your peace that passes understanding, and your immeasurable love. And most of all, we thank you for the abundant blessings that are ours and that we share with friends, family, and in the spirit of Rotary. In your name we pray. Amen.
Please join me and face the flag. I pledge allegiance.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Ed. And thank you, Will Tesh, for greeting at the door today, our newest member. And thank you, Rahul, for greeting at the door. And thank you always to Stu for manning the table. Really appreciate that. Pop-ups. Mr. Howie, before you put that big mouthful in, do you have a football winners today?
Oh, thank you. They're all winners. However, we did not have a poll.
Oh,
this
that's
week.
right.
No, I can sing a song if you want to. Just kidding.
All right. So make sure we fill out the, this is the closest I've ever come to winning. Thank you. Appreciate that. So important announcement about the calendar for the rest of the year. Okay. Important announcement. So no meeting next week. Thanksgiving. The following week, December 8th, we're meeting for lunch at the Miracle League ball field We'll have Firehouse Subs cater and lunch. We'll have the Parks and Recs folks speaking and be able to see the finished product. You know, last year we met out there, saw the project we're going to undertake when we're going to resurface and recover the Miracle League ball field that we built 15 years ago. That is complete. Games are in progress now, and we're going to meet December 8th at the Miracle League ball field for lunch. So be sure and go to the Miracle League ball field December 8th. Don't come here. If you come here, you can meet the other two folks that didn't pay the attention to the announcements. You can have lunch together. We'll be at the ball field. Intuition Ale, excuse me, that's December 1st. Excuse me, that's December 1st, Miracle League ball field. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Wow, 10 push-ups. December 1st, Miracle League ball field. December 8th, Intuition Brewery. Greg McGarity will be the speaker talking about the Gator Bowl. Be a lot of fun. We'll have sliders. Sean tells me there'll be beer. It's lunch. I'm not judging. December 1st, Miracle League ball field. December 8th, Intuition Brewery. We will not be here either of those weeks. Please RSVP so we get a good head count for the lunches for Firehouse Subs, December 1st at the ball field. We get a good count for Intuition Brewery, December 8th. So please RSVP. December 15th, we will not have a meeting. That's Wednesday. December 17th, we do our zoo Christmas party. Zoo lights, that'll be that evening. You guys have seen the announcements. It's a great time. We'll have the upper tier area like we had last year, last couple of years. We'll have a buffet style dinner. We'll be the only people up there. If after dinner, if you're not worried about crowds, you can attend Zoo Lights and enjoy the zoo. If you're worried about crowds, you can come in, sit upstairs with us, go right back out. No problem at all. Then we break for the holidays, and then we will pick up here in Timuquana for lunch, January 5th. So I know that was confusing. Refer to the website. Board meeting immediately following lunch. We have announced our new district governor for 2024-25. It's going to be Mickey Ulmer from the Rotary Club of Flagler Beach. A lot of folks know Mickey here. It's a really good selection, in my opinion. Carter Rosenblum, could you do a pop-up for bell ringing, please?
Yes, we have our yearly bell ringing coming up. This is it's always a popular event. I know a lot of people like to attend. The sheets are on your table. It's December 4th. There's also times on the back, so don't forget about those. The later hours are hard to fill up. So if you really want to be a good Samaritan, take those hours. But it's December 4th, 10 to 8 p.m. It's in 30-minute increments. If you want to do a little bit longer, then sign up for one, maybe two more. And we like to have 3 people max at a time so we don't overcrowd the bell station. December 4th, 10 to 8 p.m.
Thank you, Carter, for organizing that. December 4th, bell ringing at Publix. We won't have Dan Maloney and his huge dogs to cover 5 hours this time. So we all need to sign up. Family of Rotary, Jay Hinderlight.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. We've got some prayer requests today for Family of Rotary. First one is from Doug Benefield. His uncle, Jim McCullough, was in the hospital last week and just diagnosed with stage 4 leukemia. Alton Yates' grandnephew is the firefighter Michael Freeland, who passed away last week during the car extraction. So we ask that we keep his family in your prayers. And then finally, Marcus Drua, who was the founder of Methodist Hospital and a longtime member of this club, passed away last Thursday. And Patty sent an email, but wants everybody to know that the arrangements are still being completed, and she'll send out more details if anybody wants to attend the service. Birthdays. We do have several birthdays on November 30th. Michael Corrigan Jr. I don't know if you're here, but happy early birthday. Jimmy Kelly, happy early birthday. And Justin Merritt. All right.
Thank you, Jay. We will go to the Sergeant of Arms report with Rahul Sharma, followed by the program introduction by William Milne.
Thank you, President Ike. And Jay, I know that was not an easy family of Rotary update, but it was important that you shared that news with the club. And we'll have those Rotarians in our thoughts and prayers. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. I want to take a moment to say thank you to our digital producer for today's webcast, Joe Springer, for taking the time to putting on today's broadcast. How about a round of applause for Joe? Certainly those that man our Rotary Air Traffic Control Tower, Stu Irwin, ensuring that members arrive safely and are greeted. Stu, we appreciate you. How about a round of applause for Stu? I'm always blessed to be able to introduce our visiting Rotarians, family members, and guests. And, you know, I had an opportunity to correspond with Judge Del Wallace, and we got to put the squeeze on this guy. We will, but let's welcome back Tom Schneider from the Rotary Club of Indianapolis. Tom, glad to have you here again. We want you to get used to that, Tom, okay? The regularity of coming to our meetings. We're glad that you're here. Also, Jack Willis, visiting us from Atlanta, Sandy Springs. Jack, glad to have you here as well. How about you stand up for an ovation? Thank you. Thank you for being here. We also have guests that we would like to introduce, family members as well. I'm going to start with President Ike Sherlock. You've got some special folks in your camp that we'd like to introduce today. President Ike.
I have with me today my father-in-law, Colonel Retired Ed Mayfield, and my son, Connor Sherlock.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ed Lombard, you have a lot of friends throughout Northeast Florida, and you've got another one here today that you'd like to introduce, Ed.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce, please stand. Judy Matheny works for the FDIC, recently relocated to Avondale from Denver, Colorado. Let's give a warm West Jacksonville welcome to Judy.
Welcome, Judy. I'm going to make my way across the room. We have another special guest joining us today, a joint introduction, if you will. Lee Davis and William Milne have a special guest here for us today. William.
Thank you, Rahul. Lee Davis and I are very happy to welcome our office mate and most importantly, our good friend, Kathleen Lee from Norville Realty with us.
Kathleen, welcome. I got to give a lot of credit to Carl Dawson. I call him CD. He encouraged me. He goes, you know, Rahul, none of this one joke stuff. I want you to get back to your normal self and tell 5 jokes. So today I'm going to share 5 Thanksgiving jokes, and it's because of Carl Dawson's encouragement. How about Carl? How about a round of applause for Carl? Oh, he's getting some booze. I'm going to have to top that. Top 5. Top 5 jokes of the day in the spirit of Thanksgiving. Joke number 1. What did Dad say when he was asked to say grace? Grace. Joke number 2. Why did Mom's turkey seasoning taste a little off last year? Well, she ran out of time. Joke number 3. What's one thing that you'll have in common with a teddy bear on Thanksgiving? You'll both be filled with stuffing. That's right, Joe Springer. You got that one right. Joke number 4. What did the pilgrim wear to dinner? Well, we all like to dress up for Thanksgiving dinner. What did the pilgrim wear to Thanksgiving dinner? Well, he wore a harvest. He wore a harvest. He wore a harvest. And joke number 5. Why did the turkey bring a microphone to dinner? Well, he was ready for a roast, and I think I'm ready for a roast, to be honest with you. I really think I'm ready for a roast. Guys, that concludes my report for today. A special presentation we have here today, but first, let's bring up William Milne to introduce our favorite speaker of the year. William?
Thank you, Rahul. Fellow Rotarians, on May 17th, 1943, in a small town called Atascadero, California, a young man was born as the oldest of his siblings, and little did anyone know that this particular man would live out the famous quote, life is more accurately measured by the lives that you touch. Upon moving to Jacksonville, even as a child, Doug Milne immersed himself in our community. And I would find it hard pressed to find anybody in this community or even the greater Florida area who has not been impacted by Doug Milne. From his involvement in local politics to 1987, when my Uncle Jack said he came dangerously close to winning as the mayorship, to all of his roles in different organizations all around the city, to every bit of involvement and his pouring of love into the West Jacksonville Rotary Club, to still at the end of the day, after working on all these communities, serving double time, a lot of times as a food broker and as an attorney, to being able to still coach my Little League baseball team, to taking care of all of his family members. He gives above himself like nobody I've ever seen before. And not to mention the fact that he can make the smallest little piece of history be beyond fascinating, which he always does for all of us. There's a reason why he inspires us every single day. And for every single day, when I introduce myself to somebody and they say, "Oh, you must be related to Doug," people all from all walks of life has felt his impact, his passion, his warmth, and his generosity, all of the good things that we all aspire to be. So now, for 32 years later, I want to say, he's still moving each and every one of us with this talk, but he still moves us in every single way, every single day. Please welcome Doug Milne.
Afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Sound working all right? All right. That working? Great, great. Well, it's wonderful to be back. A highlight for me every year is to stand up and look out at this great group of folks. I value my membership in Rotary for so many years, more than I can describe. It has always meant and will continue for a lot longer, I hope, to mean a very, very great deal for me. Many years ago, we had a wonderful member of this club named Earl Cooper. Dr. Cooper was the minister at Riverside Baptist Church, and every Thanksgiving, Dr. Cooper gave a wonderful speech about Thanksgiving, and it was enjoyed by everyone through 2 or 3 that I can remember, different club locations that we had in those days. Then Dr. Cooper died. One day in March, the inimitable Bob Shercliffe, a man who, as Jimmy Kelly will attest, could not be denied or declined, called me and asked me if I would prepare a speech that Thanksgiving. Well, because Bob Shercliffe asked, and because it's still a long time between March and November, I agreed to do it and prepared this talk that I had a wonderful time giving that day and figured that it would be a one-time shot and I would enjoy it and that would be that, but it didn't quite work out that way. And I've been asked to repeat it, an honor I value higher than any, here each year thereafter, and numbers of other places as far away as Oregon, my dad's hometown. I once gave it there. But that's a little bit of history about how this talk came into being. When I put it together and delivered it that first time to this club, my father, who had been a founding member of our West Jacksonville Club, was alive. He grew up during the Depression in the Pacific Northwest and loved every minute of his life in this land. I tried to mold the talk through his eyes, a man with a boundless zest for life, its challenges, and a keen sense of fair play. Great it is to dream the dream as we stand in youth by the starry stream, but greater it is to fight life through, and then to be able to say at the end, you know, that dream is true. He reached high and he dreamed deep. Those dreams became goals and then became achievements. A wonderful role model for my sister and brother and me and William and all those who followed him. This message is today, as it was those 32 years ago, dedicated to the earlier Doug Milne. This land is your land. This land is my land, from California to the New York Island. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land, America, was made for me and made for you. Thus rang Woody Guthrie's lyrics of the American 1940s and well beyond, and the same spirit of love and devotion, pride and thanksgiving has been in the hearts of Americans for all our centuries. Around the turn of the last century, a young, tired, and lonely Scotsman arrived at Ellis Island, embarking on his own adventure in this great land of unmatched opportunity. A plumber by trade, he would make his way from New York to San Francisco shortly after the great earthquake there, looking for work. Then moving north into the Oregon wilderness, he sent back to Scotland for his future intended, whom he'd not seen in nearly 5 years, so they could build their dreams together in America. And that they did, and for that, they were ever thankful. Long even before the Pilgrims arrived at Plymouth Rock, this land made for you and for me was the object of dreams, of mystery, and great challenge. In the early 1500s, Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon landed just south of what we now know as Jacksonville Beach, laying claim of the entire country for Spain. Not many years later, French Huguenots searching for religious freedom landed at the mouth of what they called the River May to establish the first significant settlement from foreign lands anywhere in North America. Today, what they call River May, we call River St. John's. For thousands of years, the words of the Hebrew psalmist had been read and believed. Praise the Lord, for it's a good thing to sing praises unto our God. Yes, a joyful and pleasant thing it is to be thankful. We'll picture those struggling, freedom-seeking Frenchmen discovering the beauty of the very same land that you and I live in and love today. My guess is those people gave thanks, just as that Hebrew had done thousands of years earlier. Our nation, as international observers often point out, even though still young when compared to so many other lands, is every bit the world's benchmark. Did the Pilgrims foresee this? Did those amazing men, women, and children who endured the dread winters, hunger and pain, sickness and death, have any idea that this land would become the greatest nation ever known in the history of man? Well, I believe they did. I believe those Plymouth colonists did know after surviving those severe conditions and then seeing corn break through the fertile soil and grow like other crops and like hope. As breath is to the body, hope is to the spirit. They knew as they established their farms, built their towns and businesses, churches and schools, they all knew. And they stopped. They took a day, a Thanksgiving day, to rejoice and to plain old-fashioned give thanks. Puritans, Catholics, Quakers, Huguenots, Jews, and Protestants, they all knew, like Americans have continued to know for over our more than 350 years. America means Thanksgiving. It means freedom. It means love and devotion, family and gratitude. It means courage and principles and the will to fight to protect those things we so deeply cherish. And yes, often to even die for them. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee we sing. As the years go by, the love and thanksgiving for this great new land grew stronger and stronger. 13 colonies, Massachusetts to Georgia, rice, indigo, tobacco, livestock, corn, wheat, and timber, and the list goes on and on. Taxation without representation and restrictions against that which Americans have always craved the most, their freedom. The Boston Tea Party, Paul Revere and Betsy Ross, the Revolutionary War, including the Battle of Thomas's Creek, now the dividing line between Florida counties, Nassau and Duval. July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence provides that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with rights to life, with rights to liberty, and with rights to the pursuit of happiness. Almost 200 years later, then President John F. Kennedy, when conferring with a substantial group of his brightest counselors, remarked that there had not been such a concentration of brain power in that place since Thomas Jefferson dined there all by himself. Jefferson, author of that Declaration of Independence, may not agree with what you said, but he would defend to the death your very right to say it. George Washington, the father of our country, the snow was red with blood. Their faith was worn at Valley Forge. Their faith was brotherhood. Wasn't that a time to try the soul of man? Benjamin Franklin and the Continental Congress. Franklin, considered our first great literary figure and one of the foremost scientists of his age, had only 2 years of formal schooling. Excuse me. On both sides of the Atlantic, the societies took great pleasure in honoring this unique man. He became our most skillful diplomat, helped draft that Declaration of Independence, and secured the support of France for our newly formed republic. All his life, Benjamin Franklin believed that there's one God who made all things, that he governs the world by his providence, that he ought to be worshiped by adoration, by prayer, and by thanksgiving. But, said Franklin, the most acceptable service to God is doing good to man. Franklin told the Continental Convention, I believe that providence guides the affairs of men, and never a sparrow falls to the ground that God does not attend his funeral, and that all the hairs on our heads are numbered. I don't believe, said Benjamin Franklin, an empire or a republic can be launched without God's help. And I move you, Mr. President, that this convention open with prayer and that we petition divine guidance and help in this step we're about to take. America adopts its Constitution in 1787, creating a flexible government system which continues in its basic form to the present day. In fact, of all constitutions existing at the time ours was adopted, those now well over 230 years ago, only the American Constitution survives. When the people fear their government, there's tyranny. When the government fears the people, there's liberty. Thomas Jefferson. Years go quickly by and our nation continues to grow, and it grows under God, and it grows indivisible, and it grows with liberty and with justice for all. New York, Boston, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, great American cities, and that star-spangled banner so proudly she'd wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Savannah, Charleston, New Orleans, Chicago, St. Louis, and Cleveland. Big cities, big hearts, big dreams. Strong-willed and courageous men and women attracted by vast farmland, minerals, and forest resources move over the Appalachians, well beyond our young country's then western boundary, to build new lives and to raise families in unsettled wilderness, just as Americans earlier had done eastward. The Native American, Apache, Choctaw, Seminole, Cherokee, the Timucua, and so many, many more. The California Gold Rush and the Western Saga, where they sleep out every night and the only law is right. Cowboys, those strange men who invented lonesome, sing out with throats burned dry, all day I faced the barren waste without a taste of water. But with the same sturdy spirit and hope that has always typified Americans, they press on. And way up there, he'll hear our prayer and show us where there's water. Land grants and homesteads, Oklahoma and the Great Plains, where overeager settlers rush to make claims before they're allowed to, and hence are given the name Sooners. Lewis and Clark spend the winter where the Oregon Trail ends in a small Oregon town on the Columbia River called the Dalles, to be followed by thousands migrating overland into that wonderful part of our majestic country. Many Europeans would follow Lewis and Clark and find their way into this frontier land, including that aforementioned pioneer from Scotland. Railroads and the steamboat, the cotton gin, telegraph, steel plow, and reaper, faster printing presses and regular newspapers, lithography, Nathaniel Courier and James Merritt Ives, depicting early American scenes, customs, and events, including one called Thanksgiving. Time to remember and time to give thanks for this wonderful new land of unmatched opportunity. God, our Maker, does provide for our wants to be supplied. Come, ye thankful people, come and raise the song of harvest home. The most tragic chapter and heaviest pain of our not unflawed history finds Americans battling Americans, brother against brother. Friends become enemies. The Civil War, with more American lives lost than all our other wars put together. Much of the former Confederacy is left in ruins, with long and deep-seated bitterness and division between Americans of the North and Americans of the South. But it's been said that a sense of providence is a trust of tomorrow drawn from the power of all our yesterdays. To love where you've been is a ready embrace of where you have yet to go. That was clear to Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln, who held that some should be rich, shows that others can become rich, and hence his encouragement to industry and to enterprise. The American Industrial Revolution, American railroads expanding to provide a means for the distribution of goods, American ingenuity, American inventions respond to public needs, and American businessmen and businesswomen produce those products, investors and bankers, capital for expansion, coal mining, oil and railroad, manufacturers and sellers, steel, machinery, and clothing, all produced in enormous quantity. America's great cities grow greater. Huge fortunes are amassed from the business boom, but many would continue living in poverty. Big business rises and millions move from farm to city. The American telephone, the American airplane, and the American phonograph, automobiles in mass production and in any color you wanted, just so that color was black. Ransom Eli Olds and Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, the Wright brothers, and Alexander Graham Bell. America's rich natural resources, abundant water supply to power machinery, lumber for construction, and products from our vast forest land. Coal and iron from the ground producing steel to build machines, railroad tracks, cars, bridges, and that list is infinite. Copper, silver, petroleum, labor unions, and social reform. That Scotsman who settled in Oregon arrived only about 40 years after completion of the world's first transcontinental railroad system, linking our country by rail from east to west. With the railroad came economic growth, shipping and transporting people. Cornelius Vanderbilt and Jay Gould, early merchants including R.H. Macy and Marshall Field. Right or wrong, the customer is always right. And John Wanamaker, when a customer comes into my store, you forget about me. That customer is king. New mail order companies begun by men named Montgomery Ward and Richard Sears. Strong political machines are developed by Democrat and Republican parties. Military strength increases, and America becomes a world power, an international leader. The gay 90s, American football, American baseball, and American basketball have all begun. Teddy Roosevelt, this country will not be a good place for anyone to live until it's a good place for everyone to live. America tries to stay out of war, but after too many German acts of aggression, including sinking ships, we declare war on Germany in 1917. Doughboys and Liberty Bonds, Allied victory in 1918, armistice and memorial. The Roaring '20s. For the first time, most Americans now live in cities. Lindbergh crosses the Atlantic and the Constitution is amended, allowing women the right to vote. Prohibition, American radio and American movies, the Charleston, Wilson, Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover, margin buying, stock market crash, and depression. Red Grange, Jack Dempsey, Joe Louis, Bobby Jones, and the immortal Babe Ruth. FDR and the New Deal, the CCC, WPA, and Farm Credit Administration. German troops overrun Poland, and much of Europe unites in war against Germany, but we stay out until December 7th, 1941, when Japan bombs Pearl Harbor and we declare war on Germany, Japan, and Italy. The war lasts 4 long and bitter years, and the Scotsman's 3 sons would serve: Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Truman and Eisenhower, American might and endurance, men, women, and children, black and white, preserving world freedom and world peace. Many would go when called, and many wouldn't come back. The greatest of sacrifices for this land where our fathers died, this land of the Pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. Russia and China spread the threat of communism, the Korean War. One day, his minister called on the discouraged Scotsman, whose son had long been missing in action and was presumed dead. As the minister walked from the shop, the telephone rang, and it was word that the son had been found and that he was alive and that he was well. Frantically, the little Scottish plumber ran out into the street, caught up with his minister on the sidewalk, and thrust on him all the cash from his shop's cash register. Thanksgiving. Kennedy's 1,000 Days. Ask not what your country can do for you, but rather ask what you can do for your country. Johnson, Nixon, and Ford, Vietnam and the Civil Rights Movement, Rosa Parks, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I have a dream that one day the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. Space travel, satellites, and Americans on the moon. Computers and spreading drives for human equality. Colleges and universities, 747s and L1011s. World Series, Super Bowls, Disney World. You've got mail and Zoom meetings. American scientific breakthroughs and medical life-saving technology. Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, America, this land made for you and for me, is a nation which has, through its history, faced and aggressively overcome turmoil, strife, and struggle of a magnitude unlike the rest of the world. And it will continue to do so. America, from Wall Street to Bourbon Street, to Hollywood and Vine, from the Broward Bridge at Dame Point to the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, Alaska to Florida, Maine to Hawaii, with strong resilience, faith-based ingenuity, patriotism, reliance on our spiritual and moral fiber, and our great American humanitarian creed, we are the symbol of mankind's hope for the future. Just as those going before us, including that Scotsman who you may remember was my grandfather and William's great-grandfather, next Thursday we stop. We raise that song of Harvest Home, and we give thanks for all the blessings in this great land where our fathers died. This land of the Pilgrims' pride, America. America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Doug. I speak for a lot of us when I say this is my favorite meeting of the year. I look forward to it every year. Remember, no lunch meeting next week. Happy Thanksgiving. December 1st, Miracle League Ball Field. December 4th, Publix bell ringing. December 8th, Intuition Brewery. December 17th, the Christmas party at the zoo. Pete Shutters will lead us in our four-way test.
Join me in the four-way test of things we think, say, and do. First, second, third, and fourth.
Our quote today is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. What lies behind you and what lies in front of you pales in comparison to what lies inside of you.